Hey, what's going on there, everybody? My name is Haydn Adams with A Designer Who Codes. In today's little tutorial video, I want to talk about how wrapping a tag around the dangerously inner set, I keep saying it backwards, dangerously set inner HTML. I keep on saying it the opposite direction. Why, if you do not have tags placed around your dangerously set inner HTML, how in Gatsby JS, the Gatsby develop will work, but the Gatsby build will not work. And with that, let's get started. Hey, what's happening, everybody? My name is Haydn Adams. I'm just actually wrapping up the finishing touches of a course that I built on how to design a blog in Gatsby JS. And over the course of my build, everything was working fine, but I did make one mistake that I wanted to showcase on YouTube. So what I have here is my first blog, and it shows this is my second markdown file. And in here, it shows, looks like it's great. Everything's looking fine. I have a markdown file. And if I go down here, this is the text of the second markdown file. This is one more sentence and the Golden Gate Bridge. And this is more text to come, and this is more text to come. In Gatsby Develop, everything works fine. But let me show you what happens when I actually run Gatsby Build. So if you're new to Gatsby, there's a couple different variations of different terminal commands we can use. If I type Gatsby, it tells me all the different options I get to use. And when I build my design project, I always spend time in Gatsby Develop. It starts development server, watches files, rebuilds, and hot reloads, my favorite phrases. But what I want to do is I then want to run a Gatsby build, which is at Gatsby build, and that builds the Gatsby project. And then what I want to do is to actually test the working project, I want to run Gatsby save, and that serves a previously built Gatsby site. So we kind of start with Gatsby develop, then we run a Gatsby build, and then to make sure everything works perfectly, I want to run Gatsby serve. So let's head over to, actually I'm in my terminal. So if I scroll down again, I'm going to say Gatsby build, and that's going to build out my project. And if I come up here, in my content, which is where my markdown files are, there's going to be a public folder. And public is where everything gets built. So as you can see here, it's building all my different pieces, it's running queries, it is taking all of my development code, and everything should work. But ultimately, my whole goal is that the Gatsby develop is one thing, but the Gatsby build is more of your final checklist. So I ran Gatsby build. Let me run Gatsby serve, which is Gatsby serve, as in like Gatsby server. And that's going to change my local host, not from 8,000, but 9,000. And let me change that number to 9,000. And when I run it, no, danger, Will Robinson, my markdown text doesn't show up. Unfortunately, that cool Golden Gate Bridge picture right down here, this is the text of the second markdown file, and down here is not working. And I'm going, well, I've written this before, why doesn't it work? And every so often you get error messages like this, but they don't show up actually in the terminal, and Gatsby Develop didn't show any error messages. Well, that's because I didn't code it properly. So if I stop my server and go back to Gatsby Develop for 1 second, it won't show me any error messages, but I have to show you what the error is, because I know that this piece right here corresponds, if I go back to my blog post, and I am working with the dangerously set inner HTML. All this does is this pulls the HTML out of my markdown files. So the information below the 3 dots in my front end matter. And I also know that I have to wrap this div around something else. And right now it's not being wrapped, it's still being hit right next to the paragraph tag with the image. And did I just type Gatsby? I think I just did. Oh, I typed Gatsby. Anyways, it doesn't matter because Gatsby Develop will not show the fix. So what I do recommend doing to fix this problem is within the dangerously set inner HTML, I have to put some sort of tag around this. Normally I will use an article tag if I'm writing a blog. Article to article. Let's save this and now run Gatsby build. Trying to keep all my Gatsby words all together. So now that I have blog post, article to article, making sure this div is almost like quarantined or separated from everything else, this will now run properly. Hopefully, maybe. No, what it'll do is it's going to build everything. It's going to hold the dangerously set. I always want to say dangerously inner set, but it's dangerously set inner HTML into my design. And now if we run this with Gatsby serve, not Gatsby. That was a good one right there. I apparently not had enough coffee as I'm recording this at about 7:30 in the morning, so I thought I'd get a jump on things. But now if I do Gatsby serve after Gatsby, if I scroll down, there it is. Hey, this is the text of the second markdown file. This is one more sentence, and everything works fine. I can check the first one. I can go to my first markdown file. And if I double check the first markdown file, right down here, this is now the rest of the markdown file. This is where your blog post would go. Here it works. The two options I do usually use, now it does work with any specific tag. An article really comes into play because it's the article of my content. But let's say you're not writing an article. You can't figure out what sort of tag to run. And let me stop this for a second. When all else fails, I throw in my superhero. And the superhero tag of all tags is the span tag. Span tag is the sister to the div. The div goes with block level elements, and the span tag works with inline elements. Why do I call the span tag my superhero? Because it does absolutely nothing. And online and designing for the web, if you could have a tag that does nothing, that is the greatest thing ever. It is a blank slate. You can do whatever you want with that span tag. You could put a class name in there. You could put an ID in there. You can put whatever you want in that span tag, and now you can do whatever you want inside the tag with the span tag. Case in point, if I save this, and I'll do Gatsby build, it will work. So if you can't find the appropriate tag, don't forget that when you write HTML, this is not a design language. This is just a markup language. So HTML, hypertext markup language. So the span tag just holds that div in place. Again, it's a superhero. It will not affect your design at all, I guess, unless you've written your span tags in your CSS, which if you did that, you got to fix it. That's just not cool. So back in Gatsby serve, I ran Gatsby build. And now Gatsby serve, I refresh, my text appears at the bottom. And the same with the blog, and the same with the markdown file. And there's that Golden Gate Bridge picture. So just as an FYI, if you are building blogs or you are pulling content from markdown files using Markdown Remark or any other different plugin from the Gatsby interface or just any interface, that you have to make sure that you wrap the dangerously set inner HTML around some sort of tag to hold it in place. Otherwise, it will not work properly. I'm Haydn Adams from A Designer Who Codes. I hope you had a great time watching this video. Thank you.